On the next all-new episode of Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba Entertainment District.
Set your heart ablaze! Raging sun!
His swordsmanship style changed.
There it is! The opening thread! I can do this! Inokami Kagura! Fire wheel!
Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba Entertainment District. Next Saturday at midnight. Only Toonami on Adult Swim. On the next all-new episode of Lycoris Recoil.
I love it here.
Do you come here often?
Yep, annual pass. If you like, I can get you one too.
These are fish as well? Why are you doing that? People are staring. Don't do things that stand out.
Why not?
What do you mean, why not? Because we're Lycoris.
When I'm not wearing a uniform, I am not a Lycoris.
Lycoris Recoil. Next Saturday at 1 a.m. Only Toonami on Adult Swim.
Hello everyone, welcome to Toonami Therapy, January 31st, 2024. I'm Michael.
I'm Tommy.
And this is our podcast where we talk about anime and things we're watching, some of which are on Toonami. So, I don't think they announced anything new at Toonami that we didn't know. Just, we already knew about Ninja Kamui coming as the Dr. Stone replacement. So, yeah, I guess we can just go right into it. So, we've got Demon Slayer episode 36. So, let's see. They basically do, investigations. Inosuke thinks he sees something, but he's not able to catch whatever it is. Zenitsu ends up fighting against this girl who works there, and he realizes that she's actually a demon, pretending to just be a regular human. He does get knocked unconscious by her. Then, let's see. Yeah. And, oh yes, we do actually see Muzan again briefly, because he shows up to talk to her. And eventually and then Zenitsu at the end of the actually this was a post-credit, I can't remember, was the part where he's being treated but then he gets abducted at the end, was that the post-credit sequence, or was that before the credits and then we had the weird school joke thing at the end?
Both were.
Both were post-credits? Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So that's basically it. We find out, yes, this one girl is, in fact, a demon, which they figure out. And then Zenitsu gets beaten up and then captured. And that was basically the episode.
Yeah, the post-credits part had more substance than the entire 20 minutes before it. So, I was pretty interested in that post-credits part, but most of the episodes seemed not as entertaining as last week.
Did Tanjiro actually show up in this episode? I can't remember anything he did offhand.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing him. Maybe he did, but I'm not sure.
He might have. I know he didn't. I don't think he did anything important. I'm just trying to remember whether he actually showed up or not. So, yeah, I don't have too much else to say. It was kind of a straightforward episode and didn't really have some of the jokes that the previous one did. Outside of that really weird bit at the end when they're all in high school and they all misunderstand what Christmas is supposed to be about and I think they thought it was Halloween or something.
That was bizarre.
And if you want more of that, there's an entire spin-off manga like that.
Is there?
Yeah, it's what was it called? Let me double check. I know because they released it in English recently. It's Demon Slayer Kimetsu Academy. It's just a fairly goofy thing where the characters are all, chibi, and then they go, it's some alternate universe where they go to school. So, yeah, that's yes, if you want more of that kind of thing, there is, in fact, a manga out there with, like that.
Attack on Titan Junior High kind of thing.
Yeah, like that, really. I didn't read too much of the Demon Slayer one, but yeah, if Attack on Titan gets that, of course, this is going to get one. How many? I mean, I'm sure, I know there's a bunch of series that have high school alternate realities. I'm just wondering which ones do that and actually at least go on for a bit. Attack on Titan Junior High, the manga actually went on for a while. I don't know. I think, let's see. I might as long as we're talking about it. How long is this one going on? Let's see. Oh, I think only the first. I don't know how long it is. I know there's a volume. There's one volume in English right now, but I don't know how much longer it went on. But Attack on Titan Junior High. Let me double check. How long did that last? Okay, yeah, it went for 11 volumes. It ran for 4 years. Okay. All right, so then we'll move on to Dr. Stone, episode 56. So, essentially, they end up unpetrifying everyone else and essentially leave Soyuz in charge of the island. They they leave. There's a bunch of stuff before that, which I guess is, just unwinding after the arc, but then they all get off in their boat and leave. They take a few of the new characters along with them, like the samurai guy and what was her name? The girl, she worked for Ibarra but then got betrayed by him. She was the one who always used the petrification device to attack people. I can't remember her name, but they get her. Then they get back. They go back to the Ishigami village, and Senku mentions how they're going to try to revive Tsukasa.
And why would they do that?
Because he's really strong.
What do you need strength for?
I mean, strength.
I thought science solved everything.
I mean, it does, but regular strength is still very useful. Remember, this is a guy who can, with his bare hands, rip a tree off his stump. It's fairly. Sorry about that. Little noise. I just got something on the phone. I'll have to deal with that later. Anyway. Well, there's that. There's also the fact, essentially, that they wanted to, they also just wanted to get him back because, one of the reasons they went off was because they were trying to get a way to cure him. Remember, the idea was basically to freeze him and hope that they might be able to petrify and unpetrify him, and now they got the petrification device, so maybe they can do it.
Yeah, was this the final episode, or is there still one more?
There's one more.
Okay, because this felt like the final episode, and I don't know what they're going to do. If they're going to do like a final episode where they try to tease us with, this is what happens in season 4, and we get the beginning to it, but they leave off at just the right time to make it most suspenseful. Yeah, I can't say it was bad or anything. I just thought that it felt kind of just like a wrap-up thing. And, like every time One Piece ends an arc and they spend entire episode waving goodbye, and that's kind of what this felt like. And yeah, just not much to it.
Yeah, a lot of the episode was just wrap up. I think the second half or so was more in terms of actually planning things. They're saying, okay, we're going to the moon. We need a good pilot. We need someone who's really strong if necessary. That was one of the reasons to possibly get Tsukasa and that sort of thing. But yeah, a bunch of it really was just a wrap up, as they say. Okay. Anyway, Kirisame. That was the name of the girl, the one who basically kind of just after the whole thing, they kind of recruited. Okay, so that was her. All right. Then we've got Lycoris Recoil, episode 2. So, basically, their job is to try to help this one hacker named Walnut escape to safety, who's going around in this big bear suit. Ultimately, they manage. But except then there are people who are trying to kill Walnut, and they basically, the episode for the most part really is just kind of an action sequence of them trying to protect them. But then they get shot and it looks like they died. But then it turned out, no, that was just actually someone else. The actual Walnut, who turns out to be a cute girl because of course, ends up wanted the whole thing to make people think she died so that they'd leave her alone. And then she ends up just joining up with them at the restaurant place to help them with technology things. Also, she changes. Also, they end up just giving her the name of what was it? Whatever the Japanese word for walnut is. Mimisu, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably my favorite episode of Lycoris Recoil, mainly because Chisato didn't get to go in the supercar, so that's the only disappointment about this episode, is that she didn't get to go in the supercar. But I obviously it worked better the first time I saw it, but it's just so funny whenever they're riding along in that ambulance or whatever it was, and Walnut just suddenly comes to life and takes off the hat, and that was just such a good moment. And yeah, I really like this episode. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say.
I remember when we first watched it, you thought the supercar joke was really funny.
Yeah.
I skipped over it in the recap, but a joke throughout the episode is that Chisato wants to take what she calls the supercar, and they end up taking another one, and she kind of refers to it several times, including one part where, if we had taken the supercar, this wouldn't have happened, is what I'm pretty sure she says at some point.
Yeah, see, it's like, I wanted to go in the supercar. I wonder if she sounds that adorable in the Japanese. I'll have to go back and watch.
That actually makes me suddenly wonder, what did she say in the Japanese? Did she, like, for supercar, what was it, one of those ones where it was actually, them saying supercar, or rather, as they would in Japanese, supaka, or something like that? It suddenly makes me wonder what it was. Let me think. Let me actually just, I can't really listen to it, but let me just see if there's any funny things about it. Like, okay, I glanced at a bit. It looks like, at least, I don't know exactly what she said in Japanese, but it does look like supercar was at least used in the subtitles.
Mm-hmm.
So there was definitely. So yeah, we had the supercar there also. So yeah, it was a fun episode. I liked it more than the first one. It is a little weaker when you've already watched it, so you already know, oh yeah, the walnut wasn't actually inside the bear suit or whatever. Actually, was it a bear suit? I can't remember what it was. Was it like a chipmunk? It's some sort of animal.
Yeah, it was a chipmunk.
Okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was thinking it was a bear suit. Anyway,
you must be thinking of the one from Fumoffu.
Anyway, so yeah, Lycoris Recoil. This was I thought much better than the first episode. The jokes were definitely better, and yeah, that's basically the episode. Okay, so One Piece episode 651. I don't know if any of you can hear that noise in the background. I'm sorry if you can. Anyway, we were on episode 651 of One Piece. Okay, so Rebecca's mother got killed in this sort of uprising. The toy soldier, the one-legged toy soldier, basically raised her and taught her to fight. And then we find out that she's actually the grandfather of the king that everyone, the granddaughter of the king that everyone disliked that was overthrown. And that's basically everything important in the episode. It could have probably been explained in, a few lines of dialogue, but we had a full episode on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be fair, I'm sure this was in the manga faster paced than in the anime.
Oh man, this is just man. I think that One Piece really got hurt by the fact that we started watching this live action thing wherever things actually happen. So now whenever we watch this, it's just like a slow crawl, like snail's pace.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't get major additions to it. Although I wonder if this girl is going to become important because they showed this entire thing. Obviously, I don't know much about One Piece, so
she's important in this arc. She is important.
Okay. So, but I still didn't see the point of a flashback that lasted almost an entire episode. But, yeah.
Oh, glad it was only one episode. I know some later flashbacks last way longer. That's partially the fault that they were pretty long in the manga, but of course the anime has to pad everything out more, even more later on. That's the thing. You see what the stuff we're dealing with now. Yeah, we get more padding later on in One Piece.
So it gets worse than this?
It gets worse.
Oh my.
Because
I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Because the problem, the issue is they don't One Piece anime doesn't take breaks, say like My Hero Academia or Dr. Stone, and it doesn't do filler arcs like Black Clover did, which means that since they can't overtake the manga, they have to basically keep pace with it. Now it's a weekly manga series. Now there are a few weeks authors take a break, but that still gives you 48 chapters per year. So, and there's 52 episodes per year, so you basically have to do one chapter per episode. The problem that starts happening later on is that the author, One Piece's author, starts taking more breaks. Not anything on like the level of, say, Hunter x Hunter, but you'll go maybe 3 you'll get 3 chapters, then a break, then maybe 2 chapters and a break, then 4 chapters and breaks, things like that. And of course, that means there's fewer chapters per year, and that means that they have to pad things out even more. One other thing, it doesn't help that the pacing of the manga itself gets worse as it goes on too. When I read the Wano arc, midway through, I was just thinking, I just wish they had beaten the bad guy at the start and had sailed on. This is taking way too long. And that was the manga. Don't worry, we've still got, like, let me think. We got Whole Cake Island after this, and then what? We've still got an arc and a half before we get there. And that's going to be a while. Yes, the One Piece anime pacing does apparently get worse. On the plus side, I've heard the animation gets better later on, so that's something.
Okay.
All right, we move on from the Toonami things to the other things we've been watching. We've got Shangri-La Frontier episode 10. So Sunraku ends up fighting the spider boss monster, which he manages to beat in what he describes as a first time no damage run. And we get that. He ends up meeting once again with Pencilgon and what's his name, the other guy who he knew from the other game, and she basically tells him, "Hey, we should work together to take down one of the super big monster guys, just the 3 of us." And they're like, "Well, maybe." Although they're kind of suspicious of her motives. Sunraku does run into Rei in the real world, and of course she gets the other thing where she's like, "Yay, I talked to him." Her kind of like weird crush on him where she just gets elated just by speaking with him is a joke that I constantly find funny. Then ultimately, they're still planning to go to fight the big boss thing, which Emil finds out, the little rabbit person, and then she's like, "I gotta go tell my father about this," and runs off. And I'm thinking, man, they really put a whole lot of effort into this AI if they're having Emil actually go over to if they're basically set up so that one NPC goes all the way over to talk to another NPC even when there's absolutely no one around. And that is the episode. Oh, and I guess to try to make the stakes bigger, they mentioned, if a unique NPC like Emil dies, then they're gone permanently. So I guess more to try to make there be a little more stakes for the fight. And that's our episode. I thought it was kind of fun.
Yeah. It was okay. Yeah. No problem with it.
One thing I did, although I did want to say, apparently I heard that this is actually kind of, let's see. Here's something kind of funny. The voice act in Japanese, not in English. The people who voiced Sunraku and Emil, they got engaged, so that puts a weird subtext on the series. So, there, just a random bit of amusing.
Kind of like how the main character of Demon Slayer or not Demon Slayer. What's the name of that show? Black Clover. That's it.
Asta?
His voice actor got married to Noel's voice actress. So, in America.
Yeah, there was that. There's that also. I always remembering when I was talking, wasn't there something about Asta's voice actor? But I couldn't remember the specifics. And I looked it up. Yep. He's with he was with her. I don't know if they're married. I know they're at least in a relationship, but with Noelle's voice actress. Okay. All right. So that was that episode of Shangri-La Frontier. Then we've got My Teen Romantic Comedy SNAFU, episode 19. So, let's see. What's her... the character, the one who became the student council president, that's Iroha, right? That's her name? Okay, so she shows up and basically asks for the service club help again because she's basically feeling overwhelmed with the position that, well, they kind of got her. So Hachiman says, okay, I'll take care of this all by myself. So they go to some meetings, and, well, we as the audience have no idea what anyone is talking about, and apparently neither do Iroha or Hachiman. I'm kind of wondering, is the joke supposed to be, I guess we'll get information on this later, but is the joke supposed to be that no one actually knows what they're talking about and everyone's just saying stuff to try to make themselves sound smart in these meetings? Because that would be pretty funny. Anyway, they end up inadvertently, let's see, don't they inadvertently end up volunteering to try to talk to other schools to get some sort of, what do you call it, cooperation for the school festival they're planning to do? I think it was something
like that.
Yeah. Anyway, so we get that, and yeah, that was basically the episode.
Yeah, it was, aside from that joke about people not understanding what he was talking about, like that was pretty funny. But otherwise, I found this episode to be a slog. And I know Hachiman is supposed to be like a negative character, but he's gone really negative. And like, I feel like, okay, he and Yukino can go ahead and get together with each other. They deserve each other. I mean, they're just so miserable people that they're such miserable people that I want them to fail because they're just so negative. And I can see myself a little bit in those characters, at least myself in the past whenever I've been, before, I went back when I was more immature and I was more negative as a person. And that's what I see in these people. And I'm just like, come on, I just don't really have any interest in the success of what they're doing with that club if they can't be, like normal human beings. They have to be super negative about everything. So that's my rant. Obviously, I'm not picking this show for my top 3 this week, so there you go.
Yeah, some of the older, what you were mentioning, it was just making me suddenly remember, there's like a ton of stuff that when I was younger, I like posted online on message boards, and I'm just thinking, I'm glad a lot of those got purged or those boards don't exist anymore.
Yeah, you and me both, and we like both of us posted on the same boards that we're glad no longer exist.
Well, some of them, in some cases, I kind of wish that I could still access them to see some things. But on the other hand, there's, like, especially the game FAQs boards. So in the past, they used to perpetually purge old topics on boards, like and they would just disappear eventually. Now, eventually they stopped doing that and set it up so that stuff stays around permanently. I think they started doing that like maybe 2006 or 2007. But everything before that is gone. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with many of those things being gone. I am a little more comfortable with the things that I've posted since then.
Yeah.
For anyone listening to us, actually, I should mention, there's some good advice. When you post stuff online, be a little careful about the fact that there's a chance that this stuff will be around in 10 years, especially if it's under your actual name. At least I was smart enough to I almost never use my real name on any of this stuff. It was all handles and things. Mm-hmm. And I kind of continue to do that with a lot of stuff. But yeah, if you're going to just, everyone keep that in mind. Anything you put online has a reasonable chance of sticking around for a very long time. Mm-hmm. Okay. But in other cases, sometimes it's just gone forever and you don't have to worry about it. Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, I think I liked the episode a little more than you did, but I do also think, yeah, it was a little drawn out, I suppose. Okay, so then we got Full Metal Panic Fumoffu episode 2. So like the previous episode, and I think a lot of the episodes of this season, it's really got 2 episodes within it. You know, kind of like how Kaguya-sama would have 3 episodes in each episode. Yep. Mm-hmm. So the first one is basically about how after Sosuke basically causes the bread stand of the school to get damaged, they end up having to, for a while, distribute it themselves. There's this teacher who's trying to like sabotage them, but Sosuke keeps setting traps on the stuff, so he keeps getting hurt as a result. And then yeah, that was basically that episode. Second part of the episode, they end. Let's see. So Kaname loans him some notes. But he accidentally leaves them at his house. So in order to get them back before the required period, they end up basically rushing to try to get back there, except of course they end up having crazy adventures along the way, up to including stealing a bike and getting chased by the police. They manage to make it to the schooling time. No, they don't make it to the schooling time, sorry. But then they find out that it didn't matter because the teacher in question was sick.
Now I really enjoyed this. My favorite part was them getting on the train and finding out they're going the wrong way, or not the wrong way, but they're going on an express line, so they're not going to make a stop at the high school. And I got taken back to my eventful trip to Japan, wherever my sister and I got on a train in Tokyo, and then we get on another one and got taken back to the place we were in the first place. And we finally got to our hotel room, and I got sick, so we had to go back. And it was literally just like this episode, where we had like seconds to get onto the train headed back to Nagoya in time for us to get back to our home place. So I had some flashbacks here of that. I was like, oh man, I really, really hate trains now. I don't think I can ever go on a train again. It's just trains and planes both. I guess I've just become an anti-travel person and would do terrible on The Amazing Race because the adventures we had on that trip were enough to scar me for life. So, yeah. So if you go to Japan, you better go along with someone who knows what everything means, because it doesn't matter even that everything is in English. It's still super confusing. And yeah, that was something else.
Oh darn, I was about to say something, but I just trying, but now I forgot what it was. I was going to say something about Japan. Oh, right, what you were mentioning on Amazing Race. Well, I mean, I don't remember them ever traveling on train on the Amazing Race offhand. There's been a lot of flights, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, I this was a pretty funny episode. The first one was funnier than the second, but they both were pretty good. I do wonder. I know it's a goofy comedy, but the fact it is technically still in continuity with the more serious one just does make me think. Okay, how does Sosuke just get away with having that gun and just firing it in, Japan, which has super strict gun control laws? I mean, even in the U.S., doing that, what he's done in these episodes would get you in trouble. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Does he just get it legal the same way Hiruma had his guns be legal in Ice Shield 21? Okay, so yeah, there's not that much to really say about it other than, yeah, it was pretty funny. I enjoyed this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One thing I did notice, there's that weird bit. I was trying to think, was this just supposed to be a joke, or was it actually a budget-saving thing? Because there's a part where they're running up the stairs, and they just showed the same clip of them running up like multiple times in a row.
Yeah, that was supposed to be a joke. They did that a few times in this episode. I think it was just supposed to be funny.
Okay.
Yeah. They did that in the front half of the episode and the second half of the episode. So I figured they were just trying to be funny by repetition. So.
Okay. All right. That's it for the actual anime. I guess we can just give rankings, and then we could talk about the One Piece live action.
Yeah. Okay, so since I looked back and I saw that Lycoris Recoil was second place for the first episode and then first place for the second episode back in 2022. And that's kind of the way it would have, well, not quite have gone this year. But if I were ranking Lycoris again, it would have to be first place and Fumoffu very close second. But as for the other stuff, I'm going to give Demon Slayer the win because I like that post-credits stuff. That was actually pretty entertaining. Dr. Stone, second place, for the jokes and stuff. I didn't talk much about the jokes, but there were some pretty funny things there. Third place, I will put Shangri-La Frontier.
Okay. For me, for third place would also be Shangri-La Frontier. Second place would be Lycoris Recoil, and I'll give Full Metal Panic Fumoffu first. It was funny. It's a comedy and it made me laugh, and that's good. Well, I can't remember if I literally laughed or not, but I found it funny. Because I'm remembering I was in the break room at work and I might not have necessarily wanted to be too loud, so maybe I just, didn't laugh out loud. But I thought it was funny. I at least laughed internally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, just in case anyone's wondering, when it was during the break room, it was during my lunch, okay? I was not watching it while I was actually working. This time. Anyway, All right, that's those. Then I guess we can move on to conclude with the live-action One Piece. We've got episode 5. So after the big cliffhanger of, the Marines are coming after Luffy and his grandfather is one of the Marines, they actually end up beating them pretty easily. More specifically, Garp just throws this big cannonball at it, but Luffy's able to repel it with his rubber, and then that hits the Marines' ship, and they get, slowed down as a result. So our main characters go on. They make it to this Barati, this restaurant place. They end up, getting food, but Luffy doesn't actually have the money to pay for it, so he ends up being forced to wash dishes to pay off the debt. For the guy says, yeah, you'll have to do it for a year. Which, I looked it up because I vaguely remember that from the original. In the original series, they do have that you have to work in the kitchen for a year to pay off the debt. But in that one, it was because Luffy accidentally destroyed part of the restaurant. And that's why. Here it was just he didn't have the money to pay for the food.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I think the original made a little more sense. I mean, I'm thinking, how expensive is this food if it'll take a year to pay off one course, even if it was a big one. But anyway, he's at least stuck doing that for now until we know that he's going to get out of it somehow. In the meantime, the Navy Garp does contact Dracula Mihawk, who's a super great swordsman and one of the 7 warlords, which are basically pirates that are working with the world government in exchange for their bounties being waived. He shows up to try to try to find Luffy. Zoro challenges him to a duel, and Zoro gets beaten pretty handily. Though Mihawk is at least impressed enough by his determination that he decides, okay, well, I'll let you live, and I'll leave Luffy alone also. And that is the main stuff of the episode. Oh, and we meet Sanji.
Yep, we meet Sanji, and he does come across as kind of a womanizer, which I was surprised they would leave that in, given, But, I enjoyed this episode a lot, and I felt like it was an improvement off the last 2, actually. I don't understand why Zoro would do that, but then again, it's just kind of like, if I had seen him act like that in the anime, I would have been like, no problem about it. It would have made perfect sense, because it'd just be like, well, he's just an anime character. That's the way they are. When you see it in real life, you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like, what's so big about having to become the greatest swordsman in the world? So, but I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, I didn't have a weird thing. I didn't find the duel weird. It just was a little weird to me when he's saying, we're going to have a duel to the death. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, what? I don't know why you need to do that. You obviously had respect for this guy. You want to be stronger than him. I don't know if you have to kill him, but like I said, Mihawk ends up basically beating him quite handily. He's able to hold him off with just this one little dagger thing, and when he decides to be serious with his actual sword, it's like an even bigger massacre. Basically, this is a part where it's like the video game. It's a hopeless boss fight where you fight someone early on and get completely stomped so you can feel better when you beat them for real later on. So, yes, it was a fun episode. We're still obviously in the middle of all these things. And yeah, I skipped over some of the smaller things. We got some hints and things about Sanji and the head cook's past, and he's not letting Sanji make food for unclear reasons. And Actually, I don't know what they are because I saw this so long ago. I forgot most of this. Like, this is what I remember from the arc. I remember Luffy's fight with Zoro. I remembered that bit where Luffy, ends up in debt. And I remember Sanji joins up with them at the end. And I remember Sanji's flashback. And that's kind of it. Mm-hmm. A lot of this early stuff is a major blur to me, unfortunately. So I'm going to be interested to see how they do things here, especially because I know they kind of made a few. I know they introduce a character earlier here. He shows up in this arc when originally it was a different character, but we can get in to that when we get to the applicable episodes.
Yeah. Okay,
so that's the episode. Another fairly good one, and yeah, I don't have anything else to say. Or actually, I actually did have a brief thing to say. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
Let's see. I'm trying to think.
Well, while you think, I'll mention my thing. I've been meaning to mention this for a while, but I kept forgetting. So here's my brief sort of. Or maybe I did mention it. Did I mention the fact that I tried that Babbel, that sort of language learning thing?
That you might have mentioned it, but I don't think you talked much about it. So,
I guess I'll just most podcasts just include advertisements for them, but we don't do that. I'll give a review of it because I decided to try it out. Basically, it's a language learning thing. It's kind of like Duolingo or other things. Honestly, it is fairly comparable to Duolingo. I'd say in comparison to that, well, it does cost money. It's not free, but it's a little less gamified, but it is the same thing. Okay, here's some things you need to remember what they are, some exercises to do, matching things. It does a much better job. At least in the language I was checking, which was German, it does a much better job explaining things than Duolingo does. Because I went back to that and did a little of that to compare. The biggest problem I have with it is that it doesn't have a very good review system compared to Duolingo, which actually does make a point to keep throwing you older stuff at you to make sure you remember it. This has a separate review option, but it doesn't work very well for me because it's all based on giving you an English phrase and you're supposed to figure out what the German version of it is. It doesn't let you do it the other way around, which I think is an issue because generally speaking, I think it's more important and useful to be able to translate another language into your own than the other way around to practice doing that. Because if you're watching a TV in another language, you need to know how to translate that language into your own. And that's the same if you're reading something. Whereas in those cases, it doesn't matter. You don't need to speak in that language. You just need to understand it. And any cases where you need to speak it, when you're writing or you're talking, you need to understand it anyway. So it was kind of baffling to me the flashcards were set up that way. And I even asked them, hey, is there some way to change this? And said, no, you can't. So you can always make the stuff on your own if you want to review them, but it is kind of annoying that, if you're paying money for a subscription, that they don't just have a better version of that. So I don't know. I think it was okay. I would say that if someone wants to try it, they do have, I think, money back if you cancel within 20 days. So you could always take advantage of that if you want to check it out. So it's okay, but they really need to make better review stuff for it, is what I think. So I don't know if that review was helpful at all to anyone. I will just mention one quick thing. If you've heard advertisements for on podcasts, and I've at least 3 podcasts I've listened to have had it as a sponsor, by the way. They really try to advertise themselves. They'll say, hey, if you use this code, you'll get 55% off. Well, there's a big asterisk after that. That only applies if you sign up, I think, for a year. And if you sign up for a year normally, you get 50% off the normal price. The podcast option just gives you an extra 5% on top of that. So, just a note, But, if it's a podcast you like and you want to sign up for it, by all means use that code. It supports them. Anyway, that's my lengthy explanation of that. I don't know if that was useful to anyone, but like I said, worst case scenario, you can always just sign up and try it out for a few weeks and then cancel it if you don't like it. All right. Now that I got that done with, was there anything you wanted to say before we leave?
No, I don't have anything actually. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I just asked to make sure that I'm not, cutting you off.
No, thank you. Yeah, I remember we said we were gonna give reviews of things we lost the previous year, and then I totally forgot that I was gonna. I totally forgot because I was like, oh yeah, you told me, oh, you watched Tomo-chan as a girl. I forgot I gave that show a 9 out of 10. So I looked that up this week and I was like, yeah, I did like that show quite a bit. I was looking at the rankings because they are doing something for, get this, the 10th anniversary of Kill la Kill. So that is crazy that it's 10 years since Kill la Kill, which is one of only 5 series I've ever given a perfect 10.
What were the other 4, if you want to share?
Well, the obvious ones are Evangelion and Madoka Magica, and then the wild ones are Shangri-La and Princess 9.
Okay.
The only sports anime I would put up that high.
Okay.
Yep, those are my top 5 anime, and not including movies. So
just to clarify, when you say Shangri-La, to anyone listening, you're referring to the series called Shangri-La, not Shangri-La Frontier, which, despite the name, has nothing to do with it.
Right. You would have to have been here a while to know about my love for that series. When did we watch it? We watched that during the pandemic, didn't we? Yeah, I think we did. Back when everyone was locked in their houses. So, yeah. So
we did. I'm check. Let's see. We watched it together. Now, you had previously watched it, but then we watched it together for the podcast. That was in 2020. So yeah, that would have been the year of the pandemic.
Yep. Okay. Well, I guess I got nothing else to add, so you can wrap it up.
All right. And so that has been our podcast, everyone. And we'll be here next week for more of the same, really. We'll be getting the end of Dr. Stone, and we'll be talking about the other stuff that we normally talk about. So, without further ado, I will just say goodbye, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
You are about to be dropped into the pits of hell, where you'll hear the sound of skin being peeled off, bones being shattered, and spines ripped out whole.
From acclaimed director Sung-Hoo Park comes a new original anime.
Even in oblivion, you'll tremble in fear of the Oni that lie beyond.
Ninja Kamui. New series premieres next Saturday at midnight on Adult Swim. Next day on Max.
Naruto, Sasuke is in the darkness. You are the only person who can save him.
I alone can bear the weight of all the hatred in the world now.
I won't let you.
Naruto, Sasuke, show me the shinobi's answer.